Janice K, but your friends call you now JK, right? JK Huey.
That's right. I've been JK since I was born. It's just a nickname that my dad came up with me. Maybe he expected me to be his running buddy, and tomboy I was. And so, and being from Texas, initials are a thing.
Right,
I'm called JR. But fortunately, I am not J.R. Ewing of Dallas. I don't have the same demeanor that he did. Hopefully, I have a little bit better demeanor than he did.
Right. Well, just a first name with initials is very cool. I wish I had that. My initials are ELF. I wouldn't want everyone calling me Hey Elf. That's not too cool. But JK is very cool, and you're from Texas on top of that, so I think that is a very cool Texas name. You're based in San Antonio, Texas right now, right?
I am, but I'm not always there. I'm usually on the road visiting one of those sites that I mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm. So you spend a lot of time on the road and speaking. In fact, I know you're going to be at the MBA conference coming up here soon, and you'll be speaking there, will you?
That's right, and it happens to be in Texas. It's going to be in Dallas at the Gaylord, which is out by the DFW airport. So if anyone hasn't had a chance to sign up and go, I think they're still taking registrations.
All right. So, JK, before we find out what it takes to become an approved REO agent, there may be some wondering if they should even bother because there's such a low inventory of assets here in California as opposed to other states, and maybe overall asset inventory is down. There's been talk about the shadow inventory and about the landslide of REOs coming over the next 12 to 24 months. What's your, opinion of these forecasts that are being talked about?
Well, can we go back to your first question about wanting to be an REO or short sale agent?
Sure.
I think many of the people that may be listening to this call are probably going to appreciate this if they have been in the primary business of managing REO property.
Okay.
And short sales, because I think there's something important that I always want to point out for those that are maybe not as experienced in REO or short sale right now, and in particular REO. It's different than the resale business. I try to always tell agents who are interested in getting into the REO business, be careful what you ask for, because it's not a typical resale type of a transaction where you can put the lockbox on the door and tell the occupants to keep it nice and tidy for when you come in for a showing. It's not the same. You many times have to have a good pair of scruffy jeans on and some tennis shoes and roll up your sleeves and almost become a property manager. You could be scooping out dead rodents from a home, to help us get these properties, working with our repair groups to make sure that we have those properties in marketable condition. It's work. It's a lot of work, and you're the eyes and ears. Someone had mentioned earlier when we were talking, you're the eyes and ears for us on the ground.
Right.
And especially where we don't have field people out working in partnership with you that's managed maybe out of our centralized group, we're relying on the people on the ground to help us manage that. So it is a lot of work, and I just always encourage people, think about it before you want to get into it, because we do, as an industry, expect REO agents to do an incredible amount of work for us. So that's, the first point that I always want to make.
Okay.
So as far as the inventory coming at us, I think as an industry, a lot of people have heard the term shadow inventory. I don't even like to hear it called that. And, banks have been accused, if you will, of holding on to inventory. And I can tell you that is the last thing any mortgage servicer wants to do for a number of reasons. First of all, we don't make money on foreclosures. I'm not sure where that philosophy comes from, because the minute a customer stops making payments to us, our revenue stream, if you will, stops. We only get paid a little bit of that income coming in off of that payment to manage our entire portfolio. So our goal is to always try to move these properties as efficiently and quickly as we can. And keep in mind that we are, for the most part, managing these properties for investors rather than ourselves. good number of the properties or the loans that we service are managed on behalf of Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae and FHA. A very small population of the loans that we service in our entire portfolio are actually owned by Wells. So we have an obligation also, based upon whatever the standards are or the guidelines are that those investors set for us, to comply with. And the last thing that those investors want us to do is hold on to property, because the longer we hold on to any property, the more we have to expend on it. The expenses can become very high, especially if the loan becomes delinquent for a number of months, sometimes into a couple of years. We have to, as a servicer, continue to make sure that the property taxes and the insurance to protect the dwelling are paid. Those are advances that the servicer makes. Mm-hmm. So it's a very costly process. And so the last thing that we want to do is hold on to any inventory. I think what we've done as an industry is try to do as much as we possibly can to help customers stay in their home. More and more efforts have been made, whether it be through proprietary loan modification programs, whether it be through the Treasury program called HAMP. We do all that we can to try to help customers stay in the home. And as we've been going through that process and putting customers into trial mods, some of those customers are performing very well, and some of the customers ultimately don't have an option due to financial constraints. And so there's a population of loans, if you will, that we're continuing to do all that we can to help customers in preventing it from going to foreclosure. And so I think maybe that is the area or population of loans that people are wondering what's happening to those loans and what are we doing. Again, we do all we can at Wells to help them stay in the home, and once we've exhausted those efforts, then we'll do all we can to prevent foreclosure through alternative methods like short sale and deed in lieu.
Right. You know, and yesterday our conversation, you made just a great case for the bank not foreclosing at all. I mean, foreclosure is the last alternative, right, as opposed to short selling. Share with us some of the benefits to us as a bank for short selling versus taking the property to foreclosure.
Well, I think everybody benefits. Let's talk about the customer first, because I always want everyone to know that the customer is our first priority. The customer, if we can work with the customer and the agent who they have contracted with to market that property for them, then the customer has the opportunity to stay in that home generally with their family, not having to uproot them and move them more than once into an affordable situation. If we get the listing agreement and then ultimately a contract, and we know that there is a viable offer on the table that's been approved, that we're just waiting for the closing, we do all that we can to prevent that loan from going to foreclosure, provided the investor allows us to do that. So the customer gets to stay in the home. It's more of a transition for them. We many times help them with possibly some financial relocation assistance, again, depending upon what the investor allows us to do, that gives them some money basically to move into their new situation, which may be another home. It could be an apartment, whatever is affordable for them. And so they don't have to uproot their family. They can plan a little bit more in moving. So I think the customer certainly benefits. They also prevent from having foreclosure on their credit report. Basically, the credit report is going to say something along the lines of settle for less than the total amount due. And, you know, we're not the credit bureau by all means, and I'm not a credit advisor, but if you think about it, it at least shows that a customer worked with the bank to try to do something other than go to foreclosure. So that's a primary benefit to the customer. The investors also benefit. We also have a very, very strong responsibility to service those loans for those investors. And the investors are going to benefit because we've seen time after time that a short sale, while we're taking a loss on it, right? Everyone knows we're taking a loss on it, or our investors are taking a loss. Generally speaking, the loss is going to be something less than if that property goes to foreclosure and onto REO. So the investor is going to benefit by reducing their losses. And that investor could be Wells. Like I said, it's a very small population of loans that we actually own. But where we do, we are benefiting by reducing the loss on that loan by doing a short sale as opposed to an REO. And then ultimately, the community benefits, right? If you think about it, if the current owner gets to stay in the home working on a short sale with us, then that property stays occupied. And you keep the community more stabilized when you do that. Once that property becomes vacant, depending upon where that property is, and we know some markets are well protected, and some, especially in some of the blighted markets, when a property becomes vacant, then you tend to have vandalism. A number of things could happen. So the communities benefit when we work with someone and keep it occupied until a buyer can come along and move into the property. And then finally, the buyer ultimately benefits because generally they're moving into a property. While it might be a good deal for them, we'll call it, they are actually getting a property that is generally going to be in move-in condition. If the customer has been asked to keep that, certainly in good condition. So it is in move-in condition when the buyer comes in. And generally speaking, your short sale is going to be in better condition maybe than some of the REOs that are available to them. So everybody benefits when I think we work on a short sale.
Well, those are tremendous benefits to, all the parties involved in the transaction or the property. And it is a wonder. It is why foreclosures exist if every customer was cooperative, if they find themselves in every borrower was cooperative, if they found themselves in a financial situation, cannot continue to make the mortgage, why not work with the bank and short sell the property and help all the parties, including themselves, from a credit standpoint in doing so. But the reality is that foreclosures still dominate the marketplace. And the expectation by many experts out there is that we're going to see a whole lot more in 2011 and 2012. So what is our position right now in terms of our agent network, and do we have enough people? Are we prepared? Are we positioned for what may come down through the pipe?
We are, and I will tell you that compared to a couple of years ago, our inventory for REO is down, and that is primarily because we have made concerted efforts. I think even as an industry, it's generally down, but I can say that at Wells it's down because we have made so many efforts to help people stay in their home and prevent foreclosure. So that's the good news. What we have prepared for is what we know today, what our inventory is, and then we plan for whether it be our own internal capacity or whether it be external capacity. So we have a couple of outsourcers that we work with that are actually an extension of our operation, if you will, in that they work on the same systems that we do. It's just as if I have other people out there that are a part of our organization managing it for us, but they are there. They're ready to take on any increase in inventory that could potentially come about. Internally, we have capacity, so we're prepared for what may come at us. But, generally speaking, we don't get into forecasting in an open dialogue, but I can tell you that we are prepared. As it relates to our agents, where the agents, and a couple have mentioned this as we talked earlier, some of the agents, especially out in California, are saying, well, I used to get more assignments from you. Why am I not getting more? Well, it's simply a factor of the inventory is down for us, especially out in California. And the demand right now from buyers is pretty incredible, I think, in that market because we're seeing competitive bids many times come in for the REO properties at or better than what the current BPO or current value is. And so the number of properties that we have in California is down, so therefore the number of properties that we're assigning to our approved agent database is down. So if you were one of our agents and you used to, on average, have 8 or 10 properties, you may only have 2 or 3 right now simply because of a factor of the amount of properties that we have available to market right now.
So are you looking to given the circumstances, to upgrade your agent network? Are there any processes underway for to kind of weed out the good or the bad with the good? I